It is 4:45 in the afternoon on August 8th, 2023, and the historic town of Lahaina is disappearing.
Evacuate!
Hey, we gotta go!
Come on, everybody out,
On the seawall along Front Street, the air has been replaced by a churning, opaque wall of black smoke and incandescent embers. To the residents trapped here, the sun is no longer a light source. It is a dim, bruised purple orb.
The flames is getting closer and the visibility is getting worse.
The sound is what haunts them most. A low-frequency roar like a jet engine idling in a neighborhood, punctuated by the rhythmic thud of car tires exploding and the sharp cracks of 150-year-old structures being dismantled by the wind. Behind them, the town is a furnace. In front of them, the Pacific Ocean offers the only exit. As the radiant heat reaches a critical threshold, dozens of people climb over the jagged basalt rocks and slip into the turbulent water, choosing the risk of drowning over the certainty of the fire.
Both sides are on fire. Terry.
To understand how a coastal paradise could be reduced to a graveyard of ash and twisted steel in less than 12 hours, we must look at the conditions that turned the island of Maui into a powder keg. Hawaii is often viewed as a lush, tropical sanctuary, but by the summer of 2023, parts of the islands were gripped by a deepening drought. On top of that, the Maui landscape had undergone a fundamental shift over the preceding decades. Once vast sugarcane and pineapple plantations had been abandoned, replaced by nearly 30,000 acres of non-native, invasive grasses. These species, such as guinea grass, are fire-adapted. They grow rapidly during the rainy season and turn into fine standing fuel during dry spells. In August 2023, these grasses were bone dry and reached as high as a man's chest. At the same time, a powerful weather pattern was taking shape over the Pacific. Hundreds of miles to the south, Hurricane Dora, a massive Category 4 storm, was tracking westward. While the storm was too far away to bring rain to the islands, its presence created a steep pressure gradient against a strong, high-pressure system to the north. This gradient generated powerful downslope winds known as trade winds, which accelerated as they moved over Maui's mountain ridges and plummeted toward the leeward coast. These winds were not just strong, they were desiccating, stripping the remaining moisture from the vegetation. Meteorologists at the National Weather Service had issued a red flag warning, indicating that any spark would be immediately whipped into an uncontrollable conflagration. The first signs of the coming disaster appeared not in Lahaina, but in the center of the island. At 12:22 a.m. on August 8th, a fire was reported in the Olinda area of upcountry Maui. As firefighters rushed to the high-altitude forest, the winds began to wreak havoc on the island's aging electrical infrastructure. Power lines, buffeted by 60 to 80 miles per hour gusts, began to snap.
Multiple power lines are down.
At 6:37 a.m., a power line near Lahaina Luna Road, high above the town of Lahaina, was caught on a security camera as it fell into the dry grass. A bright flash of blue light was followed by a plume of smoke. Within minutes, the first Lahaina fire was born. Maui County firefighters arrived quickly, battling the flames in the intense wind. By 9 a.m., they reported the fire was 100% contained. Power was out across the town, and cell service was beginning to fail, but the immediate threat seemed to have passed. However, that containment was an illusion. While the surface flames were out, the wind continued to howl, and the ground-hugging heat remained. To make matters worse, the island's emergency services were being stretched to a breaking point. Fires had broken out in Kula and Pulehu, drawing more engines and personnel away from the coast. Lahaina was left with a skeleton crew of first responders as the winds reached their peak. The wind did more than just push the fire. It acted as a mechanical force. It carried burning embers, called firebrands, miles ahead of the main front. When these embers landed on the dry grass, they ignited new fires instantly. When they landed on the wooden lanais and cedar shingle roofs of Lahaina's historic district, they turned homes into torches. This is known as urban fire spread. Once the buildings themselves began to burn, the fire no longer needed the grass. The structures became the fuel, and the close proximity of the houses in the old town allowed the fire to leap from roof to roof, bypassing any traditional fire breaks. 2:55 in the afternoon, the embers from the morning fire, hidden in the brush and reignited by the relentless wind, flare up again near the same location. This time, there is no stopping it. The fire enters a phase of explosive growth. Within 20 minutes, the fire has moved from the outskirts of town into the residential neighborhoods. Because the power is out and cell towers are beginning to fail, the emergency alert system is paralyzed. The island's network of 80 all-hazard sirens, designed to warn of tsunamis and other disasters, remains silent. Local officials later stated they feared the sirens would cause people to run inland toward the fire, thinking a tsunami was coming. The result was a catastrophic lack of communication. Most residents only realize the danger when they smell smoke or see the orange glow through their windows.
Or is that a fire? Is that a new fire right there?
3:30 p.m. The fire hits the Honoapialani Highway, the main artery connecting Lahaina to the rest of the island. Police are forced to close sections of the road due to downed power lines and thick smoke. Traffic begins to gridlock. Hundreds of vehicles are backed up on narrow side streets.
My mom and my baby are still on Lahaina Road.
People are gonna die here if you don't make sure that that intersection is going to flow.
For many, the car, meant to be a vessel of escape, becomes a cage. As the smoke thickens, visibility drops to zero. Drivers abandon their cars and begin to run on foot, often leaving behind everything they own.
Hurry up! You gotta go!
One resident, a man who had lived in Lahaina for 30 years, later described the scene as a vacuum. The fire was moving so fast that it was consuming the oxygen at ground level. He watched as his neighbors tried to hitch up boat trailers or load pets into trucks, only to be overtaken by a wall of black smoke that moved faster than a person could run. He describes seeing the paint on cars start to bubble before the flames even arrived. 4 p.m. The fire enters the heart of the historic district. Front Street, a landmark of Hawaiian history and a global tourist destination, is engulfed. The wooden buildings, some dating back to the mid-1800s, ignite like matches. The Baldwin Home Museum, the oldest house on Maui, is gutted. The iconic 150-year-old banyan tree, which spans an entire city block, is scorched to its core. As the buildings burn, they release a toxic slurry of smoke from melting plastics, treated lumber, and household chemicals. The heat is so intense that it begins to melt the aluminum wheels on cars, which flow down the pavement like liquid mercury. 4:15 p.m. The bottleneck at the shoreline becomes a sight of desperation. With the highway blocked and the town behind them an inferno, hundreds of people are pushed toward the water. Some take refuge behind the seawall, huddling under wet blankets as the heat passes over them. Others, realizing the air is no longer breathable, enter the ocean. The conditions in the water are harrowing. The hurricane-force winds are whipping up massive waves and spray, making it difficult to keep heads above water. Survivors describe the surreal sight of the town burning to the waterline, the flames reflected in the dark, churning sea. They stay in the water for 5, 6, or 7 hours. Some suffer from hypothermia, while others are burned by falling debris that is blown into the ocean. The U.S. Coast Guard, hampered by the smoke and wind, struggles to reach the shoreline. Small boats and cutters eventually begin to pluck survivors from the water, but the rescue effort is hampered by the very conditions that caused the fire. While Lahaina is being erased, the rest of Maui is in its own state of emergency. The upcountry fires have already destroyed dozens of homes in Kula. The Pulehu fire is threatening the Central Valley. Resources are so thin that, at the height of the Lahaina disaster, only a handful of fire engines are available to defend an entire city. Firefighters are forced to make impossible choices. bypassing burning houses to try to find people trapped in their cars. The water system in Lahaina has failed. As the fire melted plastic pipes in residential homes, the pressure in the mains plummeted, leaving hydrants dry. First responders are essentially fighting a forest fire in a city with no water. 5:30 p.m. The fire reaches its maximum extent. In less than 3 hours, the fire has crossed the town from the bypass to the ocean. What remains is a landscape of total loss. More than 2,200 structures have been destroyed. 86% were residential. Thousands of people are now homeless, gathered in makeshift shelters across the island, many still unaware of the fate of their families. As night falls, the glow of Lahaina is visible from across the channel on Lanai. The town continues to burn, but there is nothing left to save. The fire has moved to the south, fueled by more dry grass, and the urban firestorm has done its work. The silence that follows is broken only by the continued howling of the wind and the sirens of emergency vehicles arriving from other parts of the island. The final statistics of the August 2023 Maui wildfires are among the most grim in American history. In Lahaina alone, 102 people are confirmed dead. This makes the disaster the deadliest wildfire in the United States in over a century, surpassing the 2018 Camp Fire in California. The victims ranged from infants to the elderly, many found in the shells of their homes or in the wreckage of their vehicles along the escape routes. The economic impact is estimated at $5.5 billion, but the cultural and emotional toll is immeasurable. Lahaina was not just a town, it was the former capital of the Hawaiian Kingdom, a place of immense historical significance to the native Hawaiian people. The loss of archives, artifacts, and ancestral homes is a blow that the community is still struggling to process. In the months since the fire, the focus has shifted to accountability and the future. Investigations have scrutinized the role of utility failures, the lack of siren activation, and the management of invasive species. The tragedy has forced a radical rethinking of wildfire risk in Hawaii. The islands are no longer seen as immune to fire weather that has devastated the American West. The fire demonstrated that under the right conditions, a tropical landscape can behave exactly like a desert canyon. Today, the burn zone in Lahaina is a restricted area, a grid of gray ash and skeletons of stone walls. The debris removal process is expected to take years. Survivors are scattered, living in hotels and short-term rentals, their lives bifurcated by the events of August 8th. The banyan tree, though badly burned, has begun to sprout new green leaves, a small, fragile symbol of resilience in a place that has lost almost everything else. But for the families of the 102 people who perished, there are no green shoots. The town that stood for centuries vanished in a single afternoon, a victim of a changing climate, a shifting ecosystem, and a series of systemic failures that no one believed possible in the middle of the Pacific. The sirens remained silent while the world burned, leaving the storm-tossed ocean as the last refuge for desperate survivors. 102 lives were lost in a fire that moved with the speed of the wind, proving that even paradise is only a few sparks away from becoming a deadly inferno.